Now that the Parasite has received a terrifying upgrade to threaten not only the Man of Steel but the entirety of Metropolis, will Clark be forced to ask Lex Luthor for help? Well, let's hop into the pages of Superman issue number 2 and find out the answer to that question together, shall we? Alrighty then, so picking up directly from where the last issue had left off, Superman had gotten himself blindsided by a whole bunch of little teeny tiny Parasite clones. As if dealing with just one Parasite is bad enough, it seems that some evil force out there has actively upgraded the old Superman foe, making it so every time he drinks power, he divides like a cell in a petri dish. And now there's enough little mini-me Parasites to turn all of Metropolis into their personal buffet. Now, who exactly is to blame for all of this brand new chaos? Well, at the end of the previous issue, Lex Luthor had implied that the culprits were none other than his own personal foes, who here in issue 2 are officially named as the Secret Order of Mad Scientists. Granted, a few of the members don't exactly love that name, feeling it's a little on the nose and disrespectful. Apparently these guys, including their leaders, the very creepy Dr. Graft and his brother Dr. Farm, as in Big Pharma, get it, have been laying in wait counting the days wherein Lex Luthor would get himself locked up so they could officially come out of the shadows and take back Metropolis for their own specific brand of supervillainy. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense that these guys would have a bone to pick with Lex Luthor. After all, Lex started his comic book career as one of the most famous mad scientists before eventually morphing and changing over the times, to eventually become an evil Fortune 500 CEO in the late 80s and early 90s, to becoming a governmental contractor a la Dick Cheney and a Halliburton during the early days of the New 52, to becoming a cosmic cult leader just a few years back. I kinda love the idea that the reason we don't see many new mad scientist villains in comic books over the last couple decades is because Lex Luthor has actively been keeping them down. But now that he's in jail, they're upgrading a bunch of Superman's old foes in hopes to strike back not only at him, but at Superman as well. Now, eventually, Superman is forced to fall back to the brand new Supercorp building. He's still not in love with that name either, but it's as good a place as any to take up a defensible position. We're also reminded here that yes, indeed, Mercy Graves still managed to retain the superpower she got during the events of Lazarus Planet and helps repel some of the teeny tiny little parasites. It seems that even a massive power outage won't keep Lex Luthor out of Superman's ear either. Again, Lex's whole motivation in this series seems to be trying to break Superman down and get him as desperate as possible, so he'll be forced to end up taking Lex's own help and advice, something that I'm sure he will lord over Superman for the rest of his days. But of course, Superman is way too smart to play Lex's game, and it's not like he doesn't have a whole bunch of help. Recently, we see the rest of the Superman family, John and Kara, have actually used their ice breath to create a massive wall around the city to try and keep the parasites in. Meanwhile, the two Steels and the Super Twins go out of their way to try and evacuate as many people from the city as humanly possible. Unfortunately, the only building they didn't get a chance to evacuate was, yeah, you guessed it, the Daily Planet. Superman makes a beeline to go and try and rescue Lois, but then something rather interesting happens. Superman comes face to face with another superhero. One he's never met before, which is certainly saying something because Superman knows friggin' everybody. Let me introduce you everyone to Marilyn Moonlight. She's a Wild West ghost woman who uses moon power to create solid light constructs. As we discover, ever since Superman went away to deal with Warworld, Moonlight here has actually been defending Metropolis when the sun goes down. Which is actually a pretty interesting concept when we stop and consider that Superman and his family really do seem to fight 90% of the crime in Metropolis by daylight. Before Marilyn takes her leave, she decides to help Superman get his mojo back by supercharging him with Moonlight energy. At first I was actually going to chop this up to comic book bullshit, but then I'm reminded that Moonlight is just sunlight reflected off the moon, so yeah, there would be enough solar energy in there to help Superman regain his power from fighting all the parasites. How about that, everyone? I just taught you a science fact. Never let it be said that you don't learn anything by watching Cape Joel videos. By the time Superman actually manages to find Lois and the other members of the planet's staff, they've unfortunately already turned into parasite creatures themselves. It would seem that Rudy Jones just wasn't upgraded once by the Secret Order of Mad Scientists. He continues to mutate and grow as time goes on. Now these little parasites don't just continue to grow and divide over time, but they've actually managed to shrink down small enough to enter the airstream, turning anyone who breathes them in into parasites, including Superman himself, as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Superman issue number 2, everybody, and once again I must say I absolutely love what Joshua Williamson is doing with the series now. He's proving that he's not a one-trick pony and that he's got a lot of tricks he's yet to show us. Giving old Superman foes like Parasite, who don't get used used nearly enough. Brand new powers is a great idea and one I hope to see them play around with more. The Secret Order of Mad Scientists is a great new villainous force, with a really solid motivation that ties in not only to Lex Luthor's own personal history, but the history of comics in general, which I always love to see. Beyond that, their designs are just great, wonderfully creepy and unique. Same goes for Marilyn Moon Knight. It's clear she's going to be a big part of this series moving forward, and yeah, with a debut as good as that, I hope to learn more about her. I actually wish more brand new characters were introduced like this. They didn't promote her as the next big thing before this issue dropped. They just introduced her, gave her an awesome design, let her do some cool shit, but also left her mysterious enough that you'll want to learn more. Also, all the credit in the world to Jamal Campbell on this one. I know I don't talk about art and artists nearly enough in my videos. It's one of my real shortcomings as a critic, but he's positively killing it on this one. He's been doing great work for a minute now, but I think this series is really him staking his flag as one of the best new artists working today in superhero comics, and he's Canadian too, which I didn't even know until just recently, so all the more reason to love him. Overall, I'd give this one a very solid 8.5 out of 10. If they can keep this momentum going forward, we're going to be in for a really great Superman run under Williamson.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.